week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last stunts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Magic Mike Show as I still go through puberty here. I am Magic, and with my co-host Mike Samich in Las Vegas for the NHC tournament this weekend. More than pleased to be joined by my good friend JD Fox. Mr. Fox, welcome to the Magic Mike Show. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Magic, and I'm wondering if Mike has – I haven't seen the line yet, but I'm wondering at this point if Mike has put any money down on himself in the Bally Sportsbook. I'm not sure.
He should have, because I Venmo'd him $20 yesterday and said, put me down for a ticket. I love that you can bet on yourself. This is the bet when we went last year. I put out something on Twitter and said, hey, if you're interested in doing it, email or DM me and we'll get a little pool going. Thinking we'd have like a $50, $60 ticket. $280 ticket for Mike Samich to win the NHC. He was 140 to 1. We would have won $39,200. So that would have been a nice little payday. I might not still be here doing this show, though, if that was the case.
I remember one year, and this is just a random aside, Vic Stauffer sent a $5 ticket to anybody who asked. So literally, I have a Vic Stauffer $5 ticket from like 5 years ago sitting around somewhere here.
It's probably worth about the paper that it's printed on, too. JD is a co-host of the podcast, Champagne and JD. I always get it mixed up. I switch your two names around. Andrew Champagne was on a few weeks ago, if you remember when Mike was out. I ended up giving out the winning pick 4 ticket that day. Andrew Champagne singled a European horse in a big Grade 1 turf race. It didn't work out for him, but I told JD, if you can just go ahead and do that again in this show, single a European horse in a Grade 1 turf race, that means I'm guaranteed to give out the pick 4 show. So congratulations if you're listening to this. We're about to cash pretty big.
Yes, as Andrew Champagne would say, that kid's is called foreshadowing.
JD, before we get into it, let the folks know who are watching, in case they don't know who you are. Your history, how you got into horse racing, what kind of handicapping styles you might have, and any favorite angles you might have when you're handicapping the races.
Yeah, so I grew up in Northern California on the California Fair Circuit. Stockton was my home, so that was a long time part of the California Fair Circuit, and grew up going to the track with my mom, and kind of, kept going and kept following horse racing from there, and spent some time in college at Prairie Meadows in Altoona, Iowa, doing some work on the video side of things, and have kept my foot in the game in some form or fashion since. And recently, during the pandemic, got together with Andrew, who I knew from outside of horse racing, surprisingly enough. And we got together and decided to put a podcast together, and we're in year 2, and we're nowhere near the amount of episodes that you guys are at. We're in the 60s. You guys at 303. Very, very proud of you and Mike and what you've built here.
Well, thanks a lot. And JD's been a long-time watcher and commenter in the chat when he's able to watch live, so we're happy to have you on. When you're handicapping the races, is there anything specific that you like? Like, I know, especially if I go to a track or a circuit I'm not familiar with, I'm looking at trainer angles and jockey trainer percentages. Do you have any go-tos like that?
Yeah, really what I'm looking for is figuring out on a card, because there's generally one or two of them. If I'm going to a track or wagering on a track I don't follow that much, I'm going to look at the favorites first and foremost, and I'm going to say, okay, does this favorite make sense in this race? And you're going to find usually a couple times in a card they don't. And those are the races that I like to pick apart. So really, it's not really an angle, but it's more about an approach. It's, hey, you don't know all of these connections necessarily. You don't know the track conditions. You don't know if there's any bias. But hey, this horse, whether it's a gigantic drop in class or somebody that's been beaten 6 times at this level and is trying a 7th as a morning line favorite, you take those races and you pick them apart with a fine-tooth comb, and you spend most of your wagering dollars on those races. That's kind of how I would approach that sort of scenario. But generally speaking, I am a long shot player. My pick four tickets aren't going to win for $70, $80. When they hit, they're going to hit for several $1,000s. And that's more the approach that I take in handicap. I'm not going to throw together a ticket that includes chalk for the sake of including chalk if I to win in my construction of the ticket.
Which I think the folks who are watching, you guys are going to see that with JD's ticket structure here. We both went pretty short. This pick four at Saratoga on Saturday looks like it has the potential to go very chalky. Four very strong favorites in those races there. We're each taking stands. We're each going to go against a big favorite in a different race here. And JD's single, we each have a single. JD's single is not the favorite, or I believe even possibly the second choice in that race. So we'll get into that one a little bit. But JD, you watch the show. You know how this goes. I'll let you go first. What's the best thing you saw this week?
The best thing I saw this week was the Grade 1 Highlander on Sunday at Woodbine. And really, when you look at it, this is a rare opportunity. We only have 3 turf sprints in America that are Grade 1s. So this is a weird race to be at Woodbine. It's I'm not disparaging Woodbine. It's my home circuit. It's what I follow the closest in North America. But it's an interesting race, and it's a quirky race. And this year it had a particular quirk in that the chalk, the 1-2 favorite in the race, was a female trying against older males in a Grade 1, a Pennsylvania bred filly, who had just won a Grade 3, so had one graded stakes victory going against a field of multiple graded stakes winners. So my best thing I saw was simply that I had an angle there that I was shouting from the rooftops last week, Magic. We're trying a distance on the turf that this horse has never won at. This horse has never faced boys, let alone never faced a field where there was another graded stakes winner in it. There was a lot of things that said, do not take this horse at 1-2. And everybody did. Everybody singled. The multi-race exotics paid enormous. Did I have the winner, Silent Poet? No, but at that rate, it didn't matter, Magic. It didn't matter at all.
Oh, bummer. You pulled the rug right out from underneath you. I was say, wow, and you got Silent Poet, who, if you were playing against Caravel, was maybe a horse you could get to logically, but it sounds like you didn't. But
I was 4 deep in an 8-horse field, not including Caravel, and I did not get the winner.
Oof. Oh, that hurts. I talk about that with Mike, especially off air. One of my biggest frustrations is when you identify which is a bad favorite. You're correct about it. You just didn't get the part about who was going to win it correct. Like, it's not like football where it's, hey, I think that the Patriots are a really bad favorite here, so you win just based off of that because you'll bet your opinion the other way. In horse racing, you got, 7 other options there that you could have gone with. You chose 4. You chose poorly. That's okay.
Yeah, they finished 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Oh, goodness. You didn't even hit the board with them.
Nope.
Oh, man. So the best thing that I saw, and it's too bad that he's not on the show right now, not that I don't mind having you over, but just because Mike Samich last week, or earlier in the week, I got this lovely present in the mail. It is a Rushing Fall Breeders' Cup hat from Keeneland from last year. Mike knows that I am a huge fan of Rushing Fall. I gave her the nickname the Turf Rocket. That seemed to really stick. I absolutely love this horse since she was 2. And so it was when the Breeders' Cup hat auction was going on to benefit after the finish line, the nice OTTB charity. That horse, that hat, got really expensive, really fast, and way outside my price range. And granted, I'm very happy it did because all the money goes to charity. But there's no way I could afford it. That's how I ended up with Harvest Moon, who was in my price range and actually still hasn't run since the Breeders' Cup. And honestly, I'm not sure if she's even retired at this point. Rushing Fall, I know, is retired, but this was a backup one that they had as well that didn't cost nearly as much as the final sticker price on the winning bid. So it was a very nice gift. And then I felt bad because I knew how much the other one went for. He said, no, didn't go for that at all. So that was pretty cool. So I added it to my collection. I think if 'Tis a Magician goes to any Breeders' Cup race, of course that's going to make it up here on the wall. But I'm very excited to keep growing my very small little collection here.
Might be a hat that I owe you right here.
It might be.
Just saying.
For people who don't know, when I was on the Belmont Stakes show with Andrew and JD, I talked about Essential Quality, how much I loved him in that race, and JD very much against him, and said that he would give me the Godolphin hat. And then so when Essential Quality won, I've been sitting here waiting for it ever since. So we'll see what happens. But JD, we've got 4 races, 3 of them Grade 1 races to get through at Saratoga on Saturday in the late pick 4 sequence. Let's get right into things. Riders up! All right, JD, kicking off the late pick 4 sequence at Saratoga on Saturday, August 28th. We're going right to the Grade 1 $600,000 personal Ensign Stakes. This is a Breeze Cup winner you're in for the Distaff. Field of 9 older fillies and mares entered. They're going 1.1 miles on the dirt. Real nice long trip here. Favoritism is on the number 6, Latruska, at 6-5. And this is an interesting sequence, JD, because as we said before, there's a lot of good favorites in these races. You kind of have to take a stand against at least one of them here. This is my take a stand spot. I'm against Latruska here. She is not on my pick 4 ticket. I know she's on yours, but is she your top pick?
She is not. As time goes by, the 2-horse is going to be my top pick in this. And I think really you just have to throw out the Clement Hirsch. That was a very empty trip. There was a stumble early on in the race. You just throw that one out, and then you stack up her resume against everybody else here, and it certainly does fit. The 6-1 morning line, I wish we would get that. I don't think we're going to in this spot. I think we're going to be in the 7-2, 4-1 range with the 2 as time goes by for a trainer whose name I don't really necessarily want to say right now.
That's okay. We hate Tough Luck Bob on the Magic Mike show. It's all right. We don't have to protect anybody here because we're owned by people who don't like Tough Luck Bob. Listen, I use this horse as well. I went 3 deep. She was not the top choice for me. It was definitely going to be on the ticket. Do you know, I'll ask you this. In the last 5 years, Mike Smith and Bob Baffert have had 11 mounts at Saratoga together. Do you want to guess how many of those they won?
I'm going to say 1.
9. They are 9 for 11 at Saratoga together in the last 5 years. I think at that, if you get anything close to 6-1, you're getting a solid price on this horse. You said it perfectly. Scratch off the Clement Hirsch when she stumbled badly. She is a speed horse. She can sit off of Latruska. I'm banking on Latruska getting swallowed up by the Graveyard of Champions here. There really isn't a huge angle for me. Other than I was looking for a favorite to beat here. I think she's the most vulnerable. She's had 3 extremely solid efforts, 100-plus buyers in her last 3 wins. I just feel like she's due for a bounce, and I could be completely wrong, but this is where I'm taking my chance. Why did you use Latruska?
I think there's a chance that no other speed develops, and Latruska just gets very brave up front. And since I am going in a different direction later on in the card, I'm okay with having Latruska because I also don't see 6-5 necessarily. I think Latruska might float up a little bit because I think a lot of people are going to see the race as you are, Magic, and how I'm seeing it a little bit, in that there's going to be several horses between Miss Marissa and Swiss Skydiver, and probably as time goes by, to be honest, that are going to be jockeying Latruska for that early lead. And I think that's going to set up for some closers and some prices to, if not, get the win, at least make it very exciting from a vertical betting standpoint.
So you're going 4 deep in here. We talked about those horses. This is where we divert. So my top choice here is actually the 4 Swiss Skydiver, which is not usually something that I say very often at all, I think, is that Swiss Skydiver is my top pick in a race. But I think this is a great spot to play her. Going into the Whitney, you know this, JD, but if you're listening, you might not. She was targeting the Chuvy Stakes at Saratoga, which was against fillies and mares. It was a much easier race. It wasn't the Grade 1 Whitney against Nick's Go. And then there was a virus that happened in the barn, and every Kenny McPeak horse had to be stopped. They couldn't race. So she misses the Chuvy. She misses some training time. Her training schedule gets all thrown off. You can see that at the bottom of the page there. Went into the Whitney, wasn't really geared up. I just completely scratched that off. That was a valiant effort for her to get 4th in that extremely tough group. Now we're going back against fillies and mares. She's won at Saratoga. She won the Alabama last year. She's oddly never won at this distance in 4 starts, which is quite odd. She either needs longer or shorter of 1.1 miles, but I think she's going to get first run when they come off the turn. if Jose Ortiz has her positioned in the right spot, I really feel like she could just gun it and go. So I put her on top. Is there a reason you didn't use her at all?
I did get a chance to talk to Kenny McPeak the week before the Whitney, and he laid out a great case, and I bid into it hook, line, and sinker, even though we were talking about a much tougher race in that. Hey, I think, yes, it's a good story here, but I also think he's playing a little coy, and that was not the case, obviously. Swiss Skydiver beaten 10 3/4 in that race. I just see her. I don't know where she fits against Latruska. Obviously, last year in the Apple Blossom, earlier this year in the Apple Blossom, that's kind of the measuring stick here, and it was a very flat performance down the lane. Did not have much look like the winning horse for just a little bit as we hit the top of the lane, and Latruska and Mama Girl just pulled away. So I think Swiss Skydiver, despite being all over her with the Preakness win last year, I think that's more of a, it said more about the 3-year-old field of boys last year than it said necessarily of Swiss Skydiver to me at this point. So I'm willing to sit and watch another race for Swiss Skydiver. I don't like her here, and I wanted to throw a couple prices in from some horses that I think can close.
Sure, talk about him. Let's start with the rail horse, Dunbar Road at 20-1. You're not using the shorter price, Chad Brown, the 5 Royal Flag at 10-1. You're going all the way to the rail with Dunbar Road. Why is that?
I think really Dunbar Road of 2020 is a horse that's very interesting to me in this spot. Now, obviously, that was a year ago, and we've seen 2 fifth-place performances. But Dunbar Road did kind of, had some excuses in that first trip. Not a lot of excuses in the Chevy, obviously, but I do want to give her a chance because of this ability to close, and I really think it's going to be Flavien Prat just sitting, hugging the rail, and then looking for one move to make late in the race. And I think we're going to see Dunbar Road a little closer than we have in some of the other big stakes. But again, remember, this is a horse that finished third in the distaff last year, just 2 1/4 lengths behind Monomoy Girl and Valiance. So does have a great closing kick, does have a great turn of foot, and I think 20-1 on the morning line is going to provide a lot of value on the ticket. And the other one, I know I'm getting crazy with the cheese whiz here on the 9 Grateful Princess, but that Molly Pitcher performance, I know it's at Monmouth, and that surface right now, it plays differently each day, so it's very difficult to take much out of it. But that was a very impressive surge, and maybe this horse is finally getting into the form that we've been waiting for a long time at age 5. Obviously, this horse has been in some spots, and the Double Dog Dare, I thought the horse was home at Keeneland to open her season, and ran a poor race at Delaware on a very, very sloppy track, but came through at 14-1 in the Molly Pitcher and does fit the profile here that I'm looking for. Latruska backing up potentially if there is pace early and someone to, pick up the pieces. And that's why Dunbar Road and Graceful Princess hit my ticket, because they seem like the 2 long shot horses that can pick up the pieces. Magic.
One horse I'm excited about that I think not going to be double digits, but is one I definitely want on here is my second choice, and I may have shout out to, he's in the chat, Nick Feldman, because we were talking about it this morning. The 8, Harvey's Little Goyle, is quite interesting to me because this horse is, on paper, you're like, this is clearly a turf horse. 3 of her 5 wins came there. She didn't do that great on the dirt. I mean, the Alabama, she gets a nice gaudy Beyer speed figure, but it's the Alabama. She was definitely not nearly that good. Since that race, though, look at it. She almost wins at Kentucky Downs. She wins the QE2 Cup at Keeneland. Comes within a neck of beating Adaria and Rushing Fall in the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf. So this horse is extremely classy, very much improved. I'm going to forgive her for the New York effort and for the Diana because the turf was a little too soft, not necessarily to her liking in those tracks. She's going to go back to dirt. Her Damn Gloria S is a half to I'll Have Another, the Kentucky Derby, Preakness, Santa Anita Derby winner. Luis Saez is picking up the mount. Who's hotter than Luis Saez at Saratoga? Nobody. And then you look at that 5 furlong work the last time, 59-3, made Mott go, this horse needs to go ahead and definitely give it a try back on dirt one more time. Mott's not an idiot. Mott's just not throwing horses into races that they don't belong just to give it a shot. He believed that she's going to be ready here. He decided, even though she has that great turf form, to avoid some of the New York turf races. I think she's really scary here at 8-1, and I think I'm going to get every bit of that price. Did you look at Harvey's Little Goyle at all?
I did, and as much as I like the Alabama effort on dirt, the fantasy was a day that I heavily backed the horse, and I'm still begging forgiveness there because that was a rough effort where the horse was never in the race, and Martine just basically went out on a Sunday stroll in a important grade 3 with the horse down the backstretch. So not exactly what I would look for, but the horse is training well. And those, that August 21st bullet, I mean, it says a lot. So if this horse is ready to play, could be a contender here, but not enough for me. Too many questions to put on my ticket.
Fair enough, and that's why we're getting a little bit of a price down. Let's move to the second leg of the late pick 4 sequence at Saratoga on Saturday, August 28th. This is the grade 1 $750,000 Sword Dancer Stakes. Field of 7 males, all older, going 1.5 miles on the outer turf course. And this is where JD Single comes in, and it's not with the rail horse, Tribhuvan, the 2-1 favorite. It's not with the second choice or the third choice. No, he's singling the 9-2 fourth choice. Number 6, Japan, in from Europe for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. They might be pretty good in this spot, JD. Tell us why this is your single.
I look at the races that Japan's coming out of and the just performances and the company. Obviously, last year, Royal Ascot was a 2-1 second choice behind Enable, and we all know how great of a horse Enable is. And we look at grade 1, grade 2, grade 3s. I mean, this horse has, outside of the first 2 maiden performances, only ran against group stakes company, I should say, and now moving to graded stakes company in the U.S. But you compare Japan to the favorite Tribhuvan on the rail, and you look at where Tribhuvan ran, and it was in some very, very soft races in France and came over and has been very dominant. So when you have a horse like Japan that has been in the top levels of racing in both Ireland and England and performing very, very well, that is a completely different ballgame. Obviously, a lot of horses move from Europe to the U.S. to run with Lasix, and obviously that could be, a case in other years. Obviously not at Saratoga. All of these horses are going to be without Lasix, so why move over? I just see that this horse is going to be the classiest horse in the field. This horse is coming off of, if you want to compare time form speed figures to time form US speed figures, which use the same value set, this horse is coming off of a 127 time form figure in the Green Room Meld, which is one of the interesting names for a group company race that you ever had. And that trumps anything anybody else has run in this field by a couple figures. So I do think Japan is the classiest horse in the field. It's going to be all about shipping. But, Aidan O'Brien, anytime Aidan O'Brien shows up, it's serious. And when Ryan Moore takes the trip across the ocean, you have to pay extra special attention. But this horse is ready to go, bred for the distance, should be all set.
Well, you make a great pace. I'll also add on that after that mile and an eighth win last out, the Green Room Meld, they really were a little surprised that he won as well as that he was able to get up and get the win because they thought it was too short. They said he showed a new level of speed that they hadn't seen from him in a little bit, and that gave them the confidence to come over here, try the Sword Dancer with him. So we'll see. He definitely is on my ticket. I think with as bad as the American turf horses have been overall, we've seen the Europeans just come over and almost always wax them. The best horse in America on turf is Domestic Spending. The second best might be his stablemate in the Chad Brown barn, and that's the favorite, Tribhuvan. And there's nothing deadlier, in my opinion, in racing than New York turf with lone speed. They're going over, the inner turf. I said outer turf earlier. It's the inner turf course, which means the turns are going to be tighter, the stretch is going to be shorter, and you're putting, in my opinion, the best jockey in North America aboard in Flavien Prat, who rode him in the United Nations last out, got that great early lead. The only way I think Tribhuvan loses this is if he gets some sort of weird, wacky pace pressure, and who better to do that than the 5, Moretti. I'm not using him, but this horse has no business being here other than it's a long race. I don't know why they're trying this horse on turf, but I definitely want to add Tribhuvan on here to my ticket. But my top pick, not the 1, not the 6, I'm going all the way outside the 7, Cross Border. This horse loves Saratoga like Got Stormy loves it, like 4-star Dave did. 6 out of 7 starts winning them. Coincidentally, the only time he lost was last year's Sword Dancer, but that was to Channel Maker over a soft turf. Channel Maker had a very easy lead gate to wire, which again, brings me back to the one Tribhuvan. I'm really quite scared. I think that horse could be a monster, but I'm going to take the price at 4-1 with Cross Border. Luis Saez, red hot at Saratoga. So is the trainer, Mike Maker. Wins the Bowling Green last out, going a mile and 3/8 over this inner turf course. So I think this horse has plenty of potential. Tell me why the 1 and the 7 weren't good enough to make your ticket.
Well, I do think it's an excellent question. So Moretti, I think, is definitely in here for Pletcher. I mean, not as a rabbit, because we're not using that term in horse racing now. But you look at this pedigree.
We're not. I missed that memo. We're not using that in.
Well, I think ever since we when we added the point system to the Kentucky Derby, and we don't have 6 furlong sprinters actually literally rabbiting and then falling out of the race. Because what you have to remember in track and field magic, where that comes from, is the rabbit drops out of the race, and we haven't seen that in several years. People are actually going away from that. Moretti, they tried to put this horse on turf, the first ever career start, and as a half to a very, very talented dirt horse in Battle of Midway. I have no idea why they wanted to start on the turf, and they have not tried that since. But this horse is very, very quick. And even, you look at, there's a race at Belmont last year, which was a mile and 3/8 over the slop and the flat out, that this horse put some incredible fractions, actually beat Sir Winston that day, who's not a sleeper as well. So I see a lot of pace happening, and I do think Japan is probably going to be the back marker in this field and is going to make one move. So I do think that Cross Border, there was potential for me to throw Cross Border in the ticket, because I do think Cross Border is going to be well back and going to close in this spot, a little more similar to the trip 2 times out versus 2 times ago versus the trip in the Bowling Green. I'm expecting kind of that settle outside, make one move that Saez has done with this horse in the past. So I think Cross Border, depending on scratches and everything, I may add Cross Border 11th hour on Saturday. But I'm throwing out Tribhuvan here. I just think going to be pace compromised at the 1.5 miles, and I think Japan is just a superior animal.
We'll find out on Saturday just how good Japan is. It's almost like Aidan O'Brien starting to throw out. He knows where the females stand. He's got Santa Barbara. He's throwing the males out in these races. He's just kind of testing and like measuring stick. Like, okay, how did this horse do? Okay, they beat that one. Okay, now I need to send this horse now. So he's trying to get feelers out for which horses to send over for the Breeders' Cup that are going to be just good enough, and he can save his real ones for the Arc. Let's move on to the third leg of the late pick 4 sequence. Saratoga on Saturday, August 28th. From one man single to another, we're going to the Grade 1 $1.25 million Travers Stakes. Field of 7 3-year-old colts going 1.25 miles in the dirt. Favoritism is on the number 2 Essential Quality at 4-5. Your Belmont Stakes champion, your Jim Dandy Stakes champion. I'm singling him. I mean, this is not going to be a shocker. This is not going to break earth. So we don't really need to talk about Essential Quality, because everybody by this point should know just how damn good this horse is. Talk me through, because you didn't single him, how you envision Essential Quality losing and how that leads to the second horse that you're using here, Midnight Bourbon.
Well, I think there's a good opportunity here for Midnight Bourbon to try to take advantage of the rail here and just wire this field. And I think we have seen this track play towards the speed. And I think Midnight Bourbon might be able to set some slower fractions than in the Haskell, and maybe get away with a little less pace, because, is it going to be Mask Parade chasing the pace? Is it going to be Miles D? That's a completely different discussion than what we talked about in the Haskell last time out in terms of speed and the ability to have a front running pace like Hot Rod Charlie. So I really think there's a chance that Midnight Bourbon is just a lone speed here and can get brave on the front end, set some softer fractions with Ricardo Santana Jr. aboard. And that's the only way I could see Essential Quality getting beat in this field. I'm 1-2, and I don't even think you need to bother with the rest of the field. Although, Dynamic One at some point is going to come back and be a horse that I want to bet, but not in this spot. I need some softer company to take Dynamic One. 6-1 in this field. This horse should be 15-1, as should everybody else that's not Midnight Bourbon or Essential Quality.
And that's why you're kind of seeing that odds-wise. The 4-5 Essential Quality Midnight Bourbon's a second choice at 9-2. A pair of 6-1s and Dynamic One, who you mentioned, and then Keep Me in Mind, who almost beat Essential Quality in the Jim Dandy, now gets Joel Rosario back. The thing that really swayed me, because I initially looked at it the way that you're playing it, JD, is that the one horse I think can actually beat him is Midnight Bourbon going gate to wire. If you can get some soft fractions, I think that's the way that you get Essential Quality beat. And then I've remembered that Brad Cox said that since the Belmont Stakes victory, since the Kentucky Derby, getting him ready for the Travers was the goal. So they were like, we want him to peak next in the Travers. That means the horse that won the Belmont, the way that he won the Belmont, that won the Jim Dandy, the way he had to win the Jim Dandy, that wasn't him peaking. No, this is going to be him peaking. I think that this horse really could be a generation-changing horse by the time things are said and done between on the track and what he does as a stallion. So I am all aboard the Essential Quality train. I've loved him since the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So choo-choo, we'll keep it going. Were there any horses here that you even remotely considered or thought might play into the factor, or is this really just going to be, can Midnight Bourbon get an easy lead, or will Essential Quality pass him?
I'm finally off of the King Fury fan club. I keep finding excuses for this horse, and I'm like, yeah, that pedigree, turf makes sense. Oh boy, did turf not make sense that day. It couldn't get the Ohio Derby done against Mass Parade. I mean, there's just nothing here. While I've been a staunch King Fury supporter, again, I think this is a little too rich for Kenny McPeak and Jose Ortiz to get it done.
Let's move on to the fourth and final leg of the late pick four sequence at Saratoga on Saturday, August 28th. And true to Saratoga form, we're ending things with a whole bunch of baby New York bred 3-year-old fillies. They're a whole field of 12 of them. They're maidens in for $40,000 tag. There's also 3 AEs and 3 MTOs. They're going to mount the 16th on the outer turf. Favoritism on the rail, Dancing Firefly at 9-5 with, hey, Luis Saez. We talked about him once or twice on the show. If you want the second choice, you got to go all the way to the outside. Number 12, Sister Luck at 3-1. I used both of these horses. I went 4 deep here. We have agreement on 3 of them, so I'll let you pick which one we talk about.
I want to talk about Constitutional Rage, the 6.
All right, we'll talk about it.
And really, I think you have to look at this claim and to see what the Bruce Brown Barn and the New Connections did, and ask yourself what they were thinking, because they take this horse that had performed pretty decently on turf and they immediately step up to maiden specials on the dirt. It was an attempt and it was a third, but it was not a close race. And then obviously they're like, okay, this horse needs to go back to her home here, maiden claiming on turf. It gets washed off. They don't scratch her. And basically, she wanted no part of it that day, did not like the conditions. So I think this is a very strong turf pedigree constitution out of the Tis Now Mare Graceful Rage. There's a lot top and bottom there that says this horse loves the turf. I like the added distance, has ran it once before, but I do think this horse is probably my top selection in this. It's between really honestly it's between the 5 and the 6 as my top selection here, and I think Constitutional Rage will just tip out over Tales of McKenna, who again wanted the turf first up and didn't get it. There is some sneaky turf pedigree there. It's not as front and center, but George Weaver knows how to spot horses, and I have no problems if George Weaver says this is a turf horse. You know, I'll take that for the first or second start. And if this isn't a turf horse, then I'm probably never betting this horse again.
Well, and at 8-1, you're getting a good price on the 5, which is the 5 was my second choice. Manny Franco in the last is a fun angle that we learned from Anonymous Man a while ago, and it seems to stick and work well enough that I'm going to keep rolling with it. I do like the horse outside of that angle. George Weaver, 20% maiden second starts. Horse has been working pretty well. I think, again, that 8-1 price is going to be pretty good there. I didn't use this 6. Luis Rodriguez is 0 for 24 at the meet so far. This is a pretty hard field to beat, but you made some good cases. I think I would give this 6 a little bit more credence if he hadn't lost Jose Lescano to the 7, a horse that I didn't use, but I am looking forward to next out. So your top pick is the horse that we didn't agree on. So let's talk about a couple that we did. We'll start with the 10, Home for Christmas, 6-1 for Christophe Clement. Second time off the bench, second time at 3. Hopefully going to catch turf this time. Tried at this exact level, but it got rained off at Belmont Park. They kept the horse in. She got a run in. I think Clement was just trying to make sure she got the rust knocked off. We hadn't seen her in 7 months or 6 months, so It was nice to be able to at least get that rust knocked off. We're back on turf, which is the first two races of her career where Clement put her. We're also getting a Joel Rosario back aboard once again. He's 24% at the meet for Clement. Those are the reasons that I liked this filly. What about you?
It was actually kind of a surprising ride from Joel, because Joel rode this horse like this horse wasn't going to lose. And it turned out, once we actually looked at it, it definitely was a race where he didn't want to push the horse because the horse needed the race. But that was if you watch the replay of that race, Magic, that is the most confident I've ever seen a 0 for 3 maiden filly ran by Joel Rosario. I mean, that was like, hey, this horse, I'm going to put her in the right spot. We're going to have this great turn of foot down the lane, and then obviously the gas tank was on empty there. But I do love back on the turf. I do think second up, this horse needed it, and again, good pedigree here for it. And Clement and Rosario's quite the combination, so definitely one you have to include. And then I guess that brings us to the 12, Sister Luck.
Yeah, speaking of great combinations, you've got Todd Pletcher and Irad Ortiz Jr. both fighting to try and win the Saratoga meet titles. 30% together at the meet the last 2 years with a positive ROI. I don't understand how at the toughest meet of the country all year long that the two best, like the best jockey trainer combination you can have is going to have a positive ROI. But you're getting that. She's 3-1 taking the blinkers off, and she's trying turf for the first time and 2 turns for the first time. For me, this is a Pletcher angle, and she's going to be really fast. JD, for me, the lower I get in the levels, especially with the claiming, the more front runners I want, because a lot of these horses just don't like to pass. Why did you like the 12?
Yeah, basically the same reason. Really, this horse maps to being on the speed, blinkers off being key. Don't mind the turf pedigree. Irad up front can herd some people better than anybody else. So if this horse is fumbling late, you've got the Irad Ortiz factor there. Might get you a length or two more just based on race riding. So I do think Sister Luck will have the lead, and it'll just be about how long she'll have it for. It'll either be the entirety of the race, or it's going to open it up for a couple of the other horses that we talked about.
So we haven't talked about my top pick yet. And what did I say about the Sword Dancer, the New York turf, lone speed, really damn dangerous? Number 1, Dancing Firefly is my top pick. I think Saya's being back aboard. This horse is going to get sent like she did in her debut when she almost won at this level at Belmont Park. Wasn't bet down that day. Danny Gargan now is going to be back second start off the bench. She brought up to the maiden special weight. He ran her protected after that start. It got rained off. I think especially coming back to the turf is going to be really key for her here. Going to have to swallow a pretty short price, so I think 9-5 might even dip a little bit below, but like Nick Feldman saying in the chat, Saya's wire to wire on this horse would not surprise me, especially because some of the best speed is that 12 that we talked about, and she's parked way all the way on the outside there. So that's why I liked her. Did you not like her because of the speed, or was there a different angle?
So
I'm sorry, the price.
The price is A, and B, those New York bred maiden claimers, you have to look at the running lines after this race. If anybody flatters it, if there's a winner that she was running against on that day on May 26th, and there's not a winner in that field. No one's won. MNI has not come back to win. No other horses have won in that field. It was an incredibly slow race as well, 25 and flat, and 25 flat. Okay, that's fine. But when we start talking about 50 and 2, that is a slow race even for the New York bred fillies going around there at Belmont on what was on May 22nd, actually a pretty fast day for the track. So the price and just facing nobody that first debut, which, on paper looks good, on video looks okay. I'm willing to sit this one out at 9-5.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks so much for joining JD, the special guest, and I to go through Saturday's late pick 4 sequence at Saratoga. It was a lot of fun. We'll go through and give out our tickets one last time if you're watching live or on the replay. Thanks so much, and give us a like, a thumbs up, subscribe to the Racing Dudes YouTube channel, and click the notifications bell. That way you will get alerted whenever we go live with any of our wonderful, wonderful programs. JD, if you don't mind, I'm going to start off with my ticket for 50 cents. I'm going to go 2, 4, 8, 1, 6, 7, singling the 2, and then 1, 5, 10, 12. That is an $18 ticket. JD, your ticket, please.
1269 with 6, with 12, with 5, 6, 10, 12 for $16. One note I'll make is there's 4 also eligibles in race 13 to close it out, and I am keen on the 14 and the 15. If they draw in, they'll be added to my ticket. Bella Principessa, who's 4-1 on the morning line, and Cologne Rose, who's 15-1 on the morning line.
I knew I was going to forget that too. Sorry about that. Yeah, no, JD mentioned that to me before. So that would bring his ticket up to $24. So if they draw in and none of the other 4 that he's using scratch out, it is a $24 ticket. We're playing these pretty light because, again, this looks like it might end up going a little chalky here. We're going to take a small swing here. Seeing in everybody, some people think Latruska's a single, Tribuven's a single. That's kind of what's fun about this card, right, JD, is that there's a lot of really good horses here, and you could make a case for trying to single. Whether or not you want to believe in the case, you can at least make a case for singling just about any one of these favorites in the race, maybe not in the last. But before we get out of here, go ahead and tell us about your podcast, once again, with Andrew Champagne, how people can find it, because it is a great program. I've been on it. Mike Samich has talked about being on it before. So if there's anything that you could plug, please, now the time is yours.
Well, obviously, you can go to America's Best Racing right now, and you can choose how you wish to vote. You can vote for this show, or you can vote for Champagne and JD, both fine programs. There's other great programs that are on the voting tabulation there, on what is a very fair and accurate voting tabulation, I must say. Champagne and JD on YouTube, subscribe. It is a video podcast. We have great guests. We had Lafitte Pinkai a couple weeks ago. We've had basically a who's who in racing, from trainers to owners to announcers to track announcers to handicappers to even people like Magic. I'm kidding. Magic's been on the show, and no, we look forward to bringing in all sorts of angles and all sorts of different people and talking about the game. And we've had authors on, we've had all sorts of things. Kind of a longer form podcast, video podcast. We do a lot of graphics and a lot of video as well. And hope everybody can tune in. I will say that we're not going to have one this week. We normally tape on Thursdays and have it out Thursday night. I've had a crazy day, and Andrew is currently in Boston, en route to Boston on an airplane. So it's just how it works out sometimes. We'll have a great episode next week. So all of our love on social media will be pimping this episode, Magic.
Awesome. I love it. We're standing alone. Yeah, no, it is a really great show, and you do have great guests on there. You've also had me on to try and even out the scale a little bit, but always lots of big names in horse racing, so make sure you guys check that out. There's always a lot of great information there. Andrew and JD, if you like guests with good, funny, like quirky rapport, like Mike and I, you'll like Andrew and JD too. You guys were a lot of fun to come on the show. I wasn't sure what kind of energy was going to be happening, and within about 30 seconds, I was like, this is going to be good.
Well, I had to put on my Audio Technica BPHS1 and just be like Magic right now. So
yeah, JD usually records with a different setup, and he was teasing because he's got the same thing that I do. Over at racingdudes.com, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we have our inside track to the Travers Stakes wagering guide now available, not just for pre-sale, it is out. I've got the email from Jared Welch. I was up until late last night editing this thing. Aaron was up late last night working on this thing, getting the handicapping done. This thing is epic. It's incredible. What's great about the Travers guide is if you bought, say, for example, the Kentucky Derby guide or maybe the Breeders' Cup guide last year, Aaron and Jared have their live bankroll article in there. And what that means is exactly what they're going to be playing at Saratoga, because they're on their way to Saratoga for the weekend. Their exact plays are lined out step by step, race by race in the guide. So if you want to play those guys' tickets and knew exactly what they're doing and how they're able to be successful and keep making money doing this, make sure you check out the guide. It's got that included. It is a $39.95 if you buy it solo, but really, the best thing you do, just get a monthly subscription. They're $70 starting off for a 30-day subscription. It gets you every guide that we do, along with every pick, every track across the country. JD, I'm sorry for talking your ear off about all of the sponsorship that we have at Racing Dudes, but make sure you go check that out. JD, before we close out, let the folks know how they can follow you on Twitter for all your tips, insight, and future episodes of your show.
It's very easy at Horse Tickets on Twitter. Easiest way to find me. And for those that don't know, I am Woodbine heavy, and I'm also Australia heavy. We're finally getting back into Australian racing as it is coming out of winter and into spring down under, and we're going to have some great Group 1 races upcoming this week.
The only Australian racing I confess to ever watching was Winx, but man, there was a horse that was ever worth waiting up for late at night. It was Winx to watch her run.
And these rankings may be biased, but if you ever look at the Longines rankings for the best racehorses in the world, there are generally more Australian horses than U.S. horses on it. Just saying.
Hey, I believe you. It is the world rankings, and let's be honest, because especially the rest of the world's really great at turf. Us this year, I kind of believe it. So thank you once again, JD. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Curtis Kellaward. Mike Stomach, good luck to you at NHC this weekend, buddy. He is at Bomb 18, number 1, number 8. Follow him. I'm sure he'll be tweeting all weekend about NHC. The corporate overlords at Racing_Dudes. If you're going to be at Saratoga this weekend, hit them up. They will be at the track drinking, having a jolly good time. Supposedly Saratoga Slim's outfit for losing our fantasy league is going to be debuting on Saturday, so make sure you keep your distance. Don't let any small children near him. I'll be back sometime next week, Monday or Tuesday, with Mike. We're going to recap NHC and this epic weekend. Until then, I'm Magic. He is JD Fox. We'll see you next time.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.